I
It's his
mean,
choice.
man, that had
So,
to hurt. That hurt
I
me
mean,
for you.
recording right now, January 1st, 2025, and we have just witnessed uh, a Ohio State team who I've been making fun of and doubting this entire time because I hate Ryan Day and I hate Kirk Herbstreit. Just absolutely trounce
Wait. Why do you hate Kirk Herbstreit?
That's a whole. I do not. I genuinely don't have time. Like it would be too long of a rant, but I can't fucking stand that guy or like anything he stands for.
I'm a nice dude. I don't know.
Nah, fuck him. But anyway, they just trounced an Oregon team, absolutely obliterated them. They're up 31-0 at one point. Did you guys watch this game and were you expecting this as college football fans?
So when you said we're going to start with college football talk, I assumed you would talk about the heartbreak.
We'll get into that in a second. We'll get into that in a second. But I'm just trying to mentally prepare.
I just don't really care about most of it because college football kind of sucks. Like you and I have kind of reversed positions.
Yeah.
I'm indifferent, but I am surprised how bad they beat them.
Yeah.
I just want good games, and luckily I happened like the 2 overtime games. One that went to, I think it was the Holiday Bowl or something, 5 overtimes. I tuned in like the last drive of the fourth quarter, and then obviously tuned in for all the overtimes. And the same thing for the 6 overtime game. I tune in at the last drive, and then it goes for another 45 minutes. So like that's the football I want to see. It's like fourth quarter basketball. It's like the last 2 minutes, I'm invested. But when it gets to be 21-0 or 30-something, it's like I'm out. I'll watch SportsCenter.
Well, more importantly, my boys, my alma mater, my college, who everybody doubted and I never fucking doubted, were the Sun Devils, and they came out and played a righteous game against Texas. The beginning, obviously, a little scary. Then ASU's defense woke up, got really competitive, overcame a 16-point deficit in the fourth quarter, which was fucking electric, and my heart rate was all over the place, and it was an exhilarating watch. And 127 if you beats per minute. And then, unfortunately, double overtime, the Sun Devils lost on the last play of the game. Was an attempt to pass, which they couldn't do all fucking game. And I think that they will never live down the 4th and 13 blitz that gave up their. They were ahead after the first overtime, and that blitz call I don't think they'll ever live down, unfortunately. But they played a great game, so I really enjoyed it. It's super depressing, but nobody thought they'd be there, so shout out to the Sun Devils. Forks up forever.
Yeah. That running back getting suplexed into the fucking end zone.
Right.
So sick.
Yeah.
What is his name? The running back? Skatey Bobo.
He talks a big game too. He's like, I'm the best running back in the world.
He was having a flu game. At least the second half.
But then he struggled in the beginning, and then he came out and dude, that 45-yard pass or whatever he had on fourth down was legendary, dude. Yeah. Such a great game. Yeah, so
it was a good game.
Go Sun Devils. Well, anyway, so today we are talking The Smile Wall of Eyes. The album is Wall of Eyes by The Smile. And then Soul, which is a Pixar movie that Trey picked. So, Anthony, you picked Wall of Eyes. You have a wall of eyes behind you. So tell us a little bit about the pick.
So this album came out last year, the beginning of the year. The Smile put out 2 albums last year, and Trey turned me on to The Smile, probably around the time the first album came out, but I had not listened to it just for whatever reason. But when this album dropped, or when it was being announced, Seasick Records did a listening party at their record shop. So that was my first true introduction to the Smiles music, as I think it should be listened to in full. And, the Smile, it's, I guess you could call it a Radiohead side project. 2 out of 3, the 3 guys are from Radiohead, Tom York, Johnny Greenwood, and then, what's his name? Tom Skinner is the drummer. And it is, in my mind, one of my favorite discoveries or new ventures into music of the last year. And I've been going there regularly, and it's going to be really cool to kind of pick apart this album just because they're so, it's a left field album, it's progressive, it's jazzy. It's got a lot of synths. It's got a lot of spatial elements to it. A lot of the tracks really breathe, but in my mind, it's just puts me in this ethereal mind state, that I just love to hang out in. And in reality, I've never dug into the lyrics of this album. Tom York is an interesting cat, saying the least, about him. But like his voice, to me, I don't need to know exactly what he's saying. And sometimes I don't necessarily want to know exactly what he's saying, just because it gives it too much context for me. The sounds and the way he's talking for me is an instrument in itself. But so there's a lot of ways you can listen to these types of songs. You can go balls deep and really pick apart the context of the songs, or you can just let them breathe. And that's how I prefer to do it. But I really enjoyed going to this album. It was one of my top albums of the year. And these songs to me never get old. So excited to see what Blake thinks about it. Trey, I know what you think about it, but either way, should make for a good combo.
Trey, what are your thoughts?
So as people know, I absolutely love Radiohead. I think that they're the best band to ever exist. And when Radiohead the monster that is, because Radiohead is arguably one of the biggest bands in the world. For me, I think it's probably like currently touring. It's probably Radiohead and Coldplay. As far as
Metallica too,
and Metallica, yeah, that's true. As far as you could do massive stadium tours across the entire world, internationally known, things of that nature. And so when Radiohead put out A Moon-Shaped Pool in 2016, they did 2 tours following that. The question was how are they going to follow this up? What are they going to do? And The Smile is kind of the answer to that, where they've been able to, Tom and Johnny Greenwood have kind of been able to create this separate piece of essentially what's Radiohead lore, because this is very, very Radiohead-esque. It's a lot different than Tom's solo records are very individualistic, whereas this sounds a lot like Radiohead. But for me, the thing that it gains outside of Radiohead is it's a lot more. There's a lot more space because it's a 3-piece. It's a lot more psychedelic in a lot of ways. And the things that it loses kind of Ed O'Brien and Collins, the rhythm section and the layers of the rhythm. And that can be taken positively or negatively. But with this album specifically, with Wall of Eyes, the first album, A Light for Attracting Attention, sounded very much like a side project album in my eyes. It's oh, this is kind of like Diet Radiohead in a way, but it's still really cool. But this is very much this lives on its own.
Yeah.
So this and Cutouts, which is the album that followed up with this, I feel they really kind of find their sound as this 3-piece that exists, because Tom Skinner is a jazz drummer. Right. And it's very jazz, open. We'll get into specific songs, but Friend of a Friend, that is a jazz downbeat track. And there's other tracks where the drums are very similar in that way. But I absolutely love this record. I'm glad that Anthony brought it. I'm curious, Blake, I know Radiohead isn't your favorite thing in the world. So I'm curious to what you think with I feel this would be more in your palette than some Radiohead things, because, and I don't mean this negatively, but it's not as grandiose. It's not as these big ideas and sounds and things of that nature. It's a little bit more concentrated, and I feel you might like it more. But I'm curious to hear how you feel about it.
I will say I think it had the opposite effect. Are you drinking champagne straight out of a champagne bottle?
It was left over from last night. Happy New Year.
Alvin Ford in this.
Nice. That's funny that you bring that up, because I was going to say my drink of choice today, which I feel we always do, is Diet Pepsi. By the way, that's just, I just want to let you guys know. I like to let you guys know.
That was your drink of choice 2 weeks ago. I just want you to know, and
but
I changed it up a little bit, right?
No, I think it was Diet Dr. Pepper that week. Maybe
right,
it was.
Right,
yeah.
I was going to ask about Mr. Pibb. I remember.
Yeah.
Y'all ever drink Mr. Pibb?
Yeah, you gotta throw the bone. You gotta throw a bone to the small guys every once in a while.
Yeah, straight up. Small guys sponsor us.
Check.
Anyway, I was gonna say I think it had kind of the opposite effect.
How did you listen? How did you listen? And when did you listen to this?
So I listened to it. I split it up. I listened to it late last night, early this morning. So I listened to it before bed last night, in bed with my Bose headphones. Bose, please sponsor us. And then same thing this morning. And like, not to blow my load early and kind of give away, I'm not going to give a rating or anything, but like, I didn't particularly enjoy it. And I know that's going to like upset y'all, and it's probably going to break Jordan's heart, or he's going to be like, that's typical. I don't know. Like, I appreciate the musical aspect behind it, and I appreciate this ensemble they've created with three guys, and the sounds that they're able to make, and the kind of the direction they're going creatively. But to me, like, and I have this issue with Radiohead sometimes too, but less with Radiohead, where like sometimes the songs are like just are unpleasant to me. Like, they just make me feel
That's
uncomfortable, you know? And like, Tom's voice is really interesting, and I think that he's obviously one of the best at what he does, and you can't knock Radiohead, and you can't knock the artistic ability of him and the Smile and Radiohead, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. Like, it's a very, very kind of niche area that this music kind of channels into. And to me, like, there were just times where like I felt like I was liking the music, and then there was some kind of like out of tone guitar note that came in and just fucking threw me off track, or something, you know, something to that degree. And like, I listened to it, I went into it open minded, and I don't dislike Radiohead. Like, I don't love them to the degree that you guys love them, but I enjoy Radiohead for what they are, and I can listen to them occasionally. But I don't know, the Smile it was tough for me. You know, I just didn't, it just kind of made, there were songs that just, I didn't really enjoy. They kind of made me uncomfortable, like music, just sonically, you know? And I don't know, there are songs that I like for sure. There's one song that I really fucking like. But just as a whole, you know, not my cup of tea, but I'm still excited to talk about it and kind of hear what you guys have to say about these individual songs for sure.
You know, this type of music too. I mean, I very much am a testament to the learning curve of the album. And I think every album, whether it is Radiohead or The Smile or any Tom York project, you know, it's like your first listen is like, okay, I just need to know where it's going, you know, and you're along for the ride, and it goes places, right? And sometimes it goes off the rails too.
Right.
But I think that all of it is intentional, and all of it can be perceived as emotionally provoking music too. But once you know where it's going, then your brain starts to lay out the tracks of the music itself. And like, personally, like when I hear certain songs, the ending, I'm already hearing the beginning of the next one, you know, whether I'm listening to it as a single track or as an album. And I think that grows on you the more you listen, or the more you spend time with this type of music, you know, because like, if you were to just play this for anybody, I think they would likely have a similar reaction to you, Blake, as far as like, wow, that like these things catch me off guard, right? But once you can predict it, then you're on board, and then you can start going in different routes of listening too, because there's a lot going on in some of these tracks. Some of these tracks are really stripped down, but musically there are a lot of avenues you can kind of go and follow with your mind once you have your bearings, you know, I think within the album.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Well, let's get into top tracks. Anthony, you lead us off.
All right, so there's only 8 tracks on this album too, so you know, abiding by our rule coming in a little bit, it gets challenging to pick bottom tracks, but top tracks too.
New rule.
I will start. Yeah, it is our first podcast of the new year too. So I will start. Number 3 is I Quit. It has heavy jazz influences. It's a kind of a mellow track too, and heavy string sections. You know, there's a couple tracks on here that are really arranged. You know that, and you know, The Smile did play. Was it with the London Symphony, Trey?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, so like there's
2 or 3 shows, I think.
There's a lot of potential for these songs to be arranged with an orchestra behind it, but I Quit really much gives me a good feeling, and knowing where it's going to. It's a great song. My number 2 track is the second track on the album, Teleharmonic. This was one where this and the number 1 track, when my first ever listen, you know, in the record shop, I don't have headphones on. I'm not, you know, right next to the speaker. So there's atmosphere happening, but that song Teleharmonic really stands out. Obviously the drum patterns in that song are hypnotic, and I think that it really is. It really gives you a ton of appreciation for Tom Skinner, really standing out in this project too. I think like there are songs that blend them all together, and then there are songs where each of them stand out. Whether it's Johnny Greenwood, really creating this kind of orchestral kind of vibe, and then Tom doing his Tom thing, right? But Teleharmonic is, I think, an excellent track. So it's number 2 for me. My number 1 track on this album was hard to decide, but Bending Hectic. It is like, I think, we coming off the John Mayer album we did last week, that second to last track, really kind of brings this album kind of and puts it right in front of you. And I think Bending Hectic does that. It's very slow. It starts off very slow and very melodic and this track is not only is the climax track to me, but it also is the breather track, because there is so much time to build to where it's going. And this is one where the lyrics are really interesting too, because it's almost like it just drives me as somebody driving, and then it goes into a direction where you have no control anymore. He uses a line like, when I let go of the wheel, and then the song takes a turn, and it gets really, screechy, for a lack of a better term. It gets very, very erratic, but it is the climax of the album, and it really builds to a moment that I forever can get on board with. So Bending Hectic, definitely my number 1 track. And just for the record, I'll give honorable mention to the other 5 tracks too.
Solid.
All right,
breaking rules.
No, I will still go there, but I gotta do them some service, right?
Fair,
true. All right, Trey, what do you got
next? Me?
No,
Okay,
no,
cool.
you got it.
All right. So my third favorite is "You Know Me," the album closer. This is the most Kid A era sounding Radiohead track to me. Really more so like King of Limbs era Radiohead, where this like very like falsetto with Tom like singing over these like soft keys. It just sounds like I misspoke when I said Kid A. I meant more so like King of Limbs or like a Moon-Shaped Pool, like this like soft, like slowly building track. And I think a lot of these tracks, and like the definition of this album is, these tracks are like journeys, and some of them go really cool ways, some of them go like different ways you might not love. But this one, like, I feel like really settles the album down very well. And just kind of like, it's, like a period at the end of a sentence. And I think it does a really good job of that, especially after Bending Hectic, which I'll get back to in just a second. My second favorite track is Friend of a Friend. And a big part of that is the Tom Skinner, like the break beat that he has in this is really unique. And like, Blake, I understand what you're saying when you say something that like makes you uncomfortable, because a lot of like the chords in this song are very dissonant, and like it's probably intentional to make you kind of like, pop your shoulders up, lean your head up, and either like listen in a little bit more, like make you like uncomfortable in your body or whatever. I think, not to always bring them up, but like Pretty Lights does a really good job of this in a live setting. And I think a lot of that is inspired by Radiohead's sound, where like there's like intentional sounds that are making you like feel not joy or happiness, like a little like, just a little weird.
It's like distortion.
Distortion, like dissonance, however you want to describe it. And this song does a really, really good job of kind of like balancing that with like a really like pretty harmony. And also the lyrics from the song are really pretty. Like you said, Anthony, like I haven't really like dug super hard in the lyrics of this album. But like, because Tom York, everything can be interpreted however you want to take it.
Right.
And I think that like that ambiguousness is intentional in his writing. But like the lyrics, this like bar kind of stuck out to me. It's, as our friends step out to talk and wave and catch a piece of sun, I guess I believe in an altered state where they leave their windows and their doors open wide. And that almost sounds like spoken word poetry. So I think that's like kind of beautiful.
True.
And then my number 1 track is Bending Hectic. Bending Hectic, I think, encapsulates everything that this album is. And also just like that end where it's just this pulsating, like building energy. And then Johnny Greenwood just doing his thing on a guitar and just absolutely going ham. I mean, he's, he does film scores. He does all kinds of different things. And like all of that kind of like swirls in together. to like really create a masterful 8-minute journey track on this record. And I remember when I think this is the second single that came out, either the first or the second, and I like didn't love it. I was like, I don't really get this. Like it's not what this first record was. It's like
a little
kind of
too
weird.
hectic. We need a little more bending, a little less hectic.
Yeah, we need a little more benders and a little less, a little less sobriety.
Right.
That's what everyone's New Year's resolution is, right? More benders,
True.
2025. But yeah, no, I mean, like, and then the lyrics on this thing are just absolutely like fucking so sad and just like
it's heartbreaking.
lack of hope and like heartbreaking, and like, despite these slings, despite these arrows, I force myself to turn. Like that is just fighting against like the will of whatever you're pushing against or whatever your hardships are. I think it's really cool. So yeah, those are my top three tracks. Honorable mention to the other 5.
Yeah, right. These singles, with progressive bands like this, Papadozio, I have the same exact response to Papadozio when they put out a single. The only way I can figure it out is like if it's because it's being listened out of context of this, like when you're in the guts of this album, you're kind of in this mental trance, I think. And then when Bending Hectic kind of it lulls you in, and then it goes right, and it's like that emotion, response is visceral, But when you listen to it on its own, it doesn't resonate the same way. At least I don't think so.
Like that Dare You single that Papadozio put on that album. When that song came out, I was like, this song sucks.
Right.
And then, like,
but it grows on you.
Now it's on like 4 different playlists. Like I fucking love that track.
Yeah. There's a learning curve to this music.
Yeah. All right, Blake, I'm curious. Let's hear.
I just want to say
you have to pick 3.
I think that like the Smile to me, like this is such a bad way to put it, but like it just sounds like suicide music to me. Like it's so, the energy of it is so depressing to me. Like just from a sound aspect, that's like, and I don't think all the lyrics are like that, but even lyrics that are not in that same vein, it's like the tone of the music is like that, and it's just like, I don't know, man. It's jarring. But anyway, just to get into the top track. So I had Bending Hectic as number 3 because I did love the hectic at the end, which is very much what the end is. It's like,
I thought that was going to be your number 1. I'm not going to lie.
To me, the energy of it is very similar to Territorial Pissings on Nevermind, because Territorial Pissings is like, it's kind of, for what that album is, for what Nevermind is, Territorial Pissings comes in and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this is a lot, dude. And that's kind of like the same energy I got from it. But I really, like, you guys know I love the heavy shit. And so the weird, all the sounds, all the overload at the end, it's just like frying my fucking brain, So I enjoyed that for sure. And then my number 2 track was You Know Me. What a jarring tempo, sound, everything changed from Bending Hectic to You Know Me. But I loved it. Peaceful, slow, melodic, nice goodbye. It feels like walking into a forest at sunset. We don't know what's out there. We don't know what's in between the trees. We're ready for it, brother. We're ready for it. And that's kind of the vibe.
Our whole lives for the trees, brother.
We've waited our whole lives for the trees, and you know what? The fog is coming, and it's out there, and we're ready for it.
The fog is coming. The fog is coming.
So, I think it was a very nice send-off for the album, for sure. I thought it was great. Tom sounds great. It was nice to kind of get what felt like more uplifting, more slow.
some hope,
some sort of hope. That was nice. And then my number 1 song that I really, really, really fucking like is Teleharmonic. Yeah. I think Teleharmonic is phenomenal, and it's a slower one for the majority of the track. But the drum pattern in this, the drum pattern in the song is super just captivating and interesting to me. Really like the way Tom sounds in it. I don't know, to you guys, what feels like the most Radiohead song to you on here? Is there one that sticks out to you that's like, oh, this sounds like Radiohead, or is it all separate for you guys?
Anthony, I'll let you go first.
I mean, like, it all I kind of loop in the way this music resonates with me all in the same. You know, it all feels like that. And purely because I can get lost in it. Like I can get lost in A Moon-Shaped Pool or Kid A or OK. And I can get lost in each of the Smile albums too. So like it all kind of feels that way just because it's progressive and it's ethereal and there's a lot of intention into the music itself. But to say, like, I would be the wrong person to ask, like, what would be like stereotypical Radiohead in a sense, but because it all kind of resonates like that with me.
Yeah,
I would be the right person to ask.
There you go. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I think you know me could be a Radiohead song.
Yeah.
I think the rest of them have like a very unique, like the whole, like a lot of these tracks build, like you said, they're like progressive, like a lot of them like build on themselves. Radiohead doesn't really do that for the most part. They kind of like will set like a tempo or like a vibe within a track and then kind of like explore that vibe within the song. Whereas like Bending Hectic or Telharmonic, they're changing throughout the entirety of the piece. And I think that's the psychedelic nature of what the Smile does. But You Know Me doesn't really do that. You Know Me like sounds like a Radiohead track. It could be a Moon-Shaped Pool B-side easily.
Interesting. But I really, really like Telharmonic, and I came back to it a few times, so enjoyed that song for sure. And it kind of was like, kind of gave me some hope that it would end to Read the Room, and my hope was kind of all hope was lost, but still really enjoyed that little moment that I had. All right, let's get into bottom tracks. Anthony, what do you got?
Trey, does I want to ask, do you know of any Tom Skinner side projects or groups that he's in?
So he is in, where's he from originally?
Because this was my introduction to him as well.
Yeah, he's like a jazz drummer. Hold on one second, I'm looking it up right now. He's in a band called Sons of Kemet, which is like it's like an English band, and he's also in like metal bands too.
Interesting.
So that's like kind of his like background. Sons of Kemet's pretty big in overseas.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I think, going into this album, knowing a little bit about Johnny and Tom York, it's like you kind of know what to expect. But for me, the drums really do stick out because that is like it is very much a staple in a lot of these tracks too. But so here comes the hard part. So for my 3 bottom tracks, doesn't mean I dislike them because I actually like them a whole lot. But I'm going to put Friend of a Friend on here because of the reason we talked about earlier. Trey, you mentioned about Bending Hectic. I listened to Friend of a Friend when it dropped. I think the music video dropped with it as a single. Is that correct, Trey?
Yeah.
So there's a music video that's directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. Him and Johnny Greenwood, or I think, I know they have it, and Tom too. Yeah, have a really good relationship from an artistic standpoint. Oh yeah, Tom and they did
the Anima. Yeah,
Anima. But when I listened to Friend of a Friend originally, I was like, man, this doesn't. I don't know. It's not really doing anything for me. But obviously on a re-listen, it fits perfectly to start off side B. But I have Friend of a Friend down there. I'll put Wall of Eyes down there only because I forget about Wall of Eyes because I'm so into the rest of what's to come. Again, I think every time I've listened to this album, it's been top to bottom, and you forget about Wall of Eyes. But I'll have to put that on there. And then for the last part, the way I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna say Under Our Pillows, only because I love Under Our Pillows for the record, but I think that guitar lick that's being repeated throughout can throw people off, right? I love it, and that's specifically the sound I was referring to when I hear when Read the Room starts to finish. I'm hearing that guitar lick starting in my head before the next track begins because I'm already predicting it. But if I have to pick 3, I will pick Friend of a Friend, Wall of Eyes, and Under Our Pillow.
This man gave his bottom 3 tracks like Tom York was standing over his shoulder.
I'm literally, it hurts me to
He's
do
on the
it.
other side of the camera staring at Anthony.
I still really like it though.
It's like looking at a painting and saying, okay, find what you don't like about it. And I'm like, why?
But that's the challenge though.
I did it. We did it.
That is totally biased music.
Totally biased music.
We have to challenge each
other.
Trying
to make us uncomfortable over here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Trey.
I don't have how you do this.
No, bullshit.
Okay,
I
cool.
can't wait for this to be our new bit every single
I mean,
episode,
you got-
to the point
every
someone comments
episode,
and is like, this
yeah.
isn't funny
This
anymore.
isn't funny. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Okay, so I have Teleharmonic on my bottom three. I don't really have like a particular order, but I have Teleharmonic on my bottom three, just because like I had not the best like experience with it when it was a single. Like it kind of threw me off. I like didn't really. I don't know. It's like never really clicked for me. I think the beginning of this record compared to the back half is not nearly as good. Like Bending Hectic, I Quit, and You Know Me. I think those that's like we talk about all the time. Every album has like a 3-track
sequence,
run. And I think that's like the 3-track run. So yeah, Teleharmonic, don't love. Under Our Pillows is fine. It's cool. The guitar lick at the front is like very off-putting. It's like a guy who just learned how to play
Primus shit is this?
Yeah, literally, it's Primus. It's Primus.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, that
Primus
is a great
sucks.
comparison.
Primus actually sucks. Primus made Randy throw up. Never forget. Oh, really? Was this a sidebar? So Primus, their drummer quit, and so they put out a statement. And they were like, "Hey, if anyone wants to try out to be the drummer of Primus, like we're accepting any and all videos. Like, send us a video of you like playing drums."
Billy sent him a video.
I sent it to Randy, and I was like, "This is your chance. We can destroy them from the inside."
Payback.
Payback the bitch.
Payback. That's so good.
So yeah, Under Our Pillows, I don't love. And then Wall of Eyes, I actually don't like this song because it reminds me of A Moonshaped Pool has a song called Daydreaming on it. It's like the second track, and it's like very slow. But Radiohead, when they toured A Moonshaped Pool, they played the like 4 songs from A Moonshaped Pool. They opened every show with it, and it got really repetitive. And like I've like streamed a lot of them or whatever. And it just kind of like wore on me. And A Wall of Eyes reminds me of Daydreaming a lot. And I got to the point where like I don't like Daydreaming by like I fucking actually hate that song.
Damn.
Yeah, I know. I like really don't like it. And so Wall of Eyes reminds me of that track. So that's one I have 2. And so for that reason, here's a guy. So that song I actually don't like. The other 2 I like, but I would put them in the bottom.
That's fair.
Do your worst.
Talking about 3-track runs, this is called my 3-track run of unpleasantry. So Read the Room to Friend of a Friend. Just no. Just get me out. First off, the guitar lick. You were right, Anthony. I was the person you were referring to. I do not like the guitar lick. It turned me off. And fuck Primus while I'm on this rant, okay? And then Read the Room, like when I told y'all at the beginning, like that they're like that the smile is unpleasant. Like this song is unpleasant to me. Like there's just times where like it's, and I'm sure that someone more big brains than me can tell me why, but like there are times where it's like if you go to 2 minutes and 30 seconds in this song, it's like Tom is singing out of tune with an out of tune guitar off tempo all at the same time. And I don't know if that's the case, but that's what it sounds like to me. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? Like it's jarring. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a scene it's like a Godzilla scene in an IMAX movie. It's just like fucking sensory overload, you know? So I just didn't really like if I could have a top bottom track, it's Read the Room. Like that shit is too much for me. And then Friend to Friend, kind of same energy, just toned down. Kind of like equally unpleasant to me audio wise, but not as like in my face about it as Read the Room. So those 3, like, and I enjoy Wall of Eyes, love Teleharmonic, gets into those 3 tracks, gets real tough for me to get through. I Quit is okay, and then Bending Hectic and You Know Me are good songs to me, you know? So it's just like, I just had to push through those 3. So those are my bottom. Those are my bottoms.
That sucks us to the meat of the album, though. You know,
I know.
It's not an easy listening.
Yeah.
You know, but like, so this, your reaction, Blake, is totally valid, and that is kind of what I was expecting. And honestly, I would expect, you know, most people listening to this for the first time to have very similar reactions too. But, you know, I encourage you to, you know, on a rainy day, maybe on a dreary day, maybe a sad day, go in here and see where it takes you mentally. And like Boards of Canada to me is an electronic duo, and they're legends, but their music is like this, where, you know, musically, like if you had sheet music of Wall of Eyes or Boards of like it, to a classical, music professional, it may not make sense, but when you get lost in these songs, especially the way that some songs are arranged, where it has similar instrumentation that is repetitive, and it's kind of playing in the background, and it becomes this kind of like, you could call it a loop, but it's almost like a drone in a sense, where it's like coming and going and coming and going, and you can get lost in that. So like, I would love to, and it's reason why I haven't brought a Boards of Canada album yet, is because I feel we would get the same reaction, but maybe knowing that going in, that when you spend time with this stuff, it is bound to grow on you. But give it some time to breathe.
Blake would like Boards of Canada a lot, actually.
Okay. All right. You're giving me some pumping me up. Because like I said, I would really like to do that, but it can be confusing at first.
If you do like Music Has the Right to Children,
I would do the first. Yeah, I would do the first one.
That'd be the
I mean, just to know what they did originally, but like that's the thing. That this music, it definitely, there's a big learning curve, and you just can't emphasize that enough. But you did it.
To play devil's advocate, as white men love to do, I don't know if it's necessarily a learning curve. Like some of this just doesn't like resonate with people in the same way that it resonates. Like it's not like an objective, like great thing. Like some people don't love the lack of like cohesiveness,
structure.
And the lack of structure. Like, it's kind of like showing people. Some people love fish. Some people don't love fish. Some people, think that Fish playing Rave last night for an hour was fucking awesome. And some people are dicks about it. Fish went electronic.
That's how it is.
Curious. It was really sick. But
fuck
anyway,
yeah. Nice.
Dude, it was awesome. You got to log into my account.
I got to watch that
Dude,
shit.
They went down. It was sick. Paige McConnell was just looping. They sampled King Gizzard. It was sick.
Nice.
Anyway.
God, fucking Fish just continues to drop bangers.
Dude.
Greatest band in the world. I mean,
how did we get there? How did we get there?
I don't know, man. I was just waiting for an opportunity, the sliver of opportunity to talk about it. But it is like, that's kind of like, you don't really like Fish that much. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not that you don't understand it. It's that it's just not like in your cup of tea.
Right. But I also understand too, like I went to my first Fish show with you, Trey, and your sister, Blake. And,
that was my first Fish show. That was my first Fish show.
Well, like I remember going in, having never heard the music, and realizing that I have never heard the music before. Right. So it's like, it's hard to be critical about something when you're kind of being introduced to it, but opinions are opinions, and everyone's got them. And that's what makes, this kind of context really special. But again, it is just interesting to see how your perception shifts after multiple listens, or after just digesting it for a minute,
Yeah.
Well, if anybody's confused about where I stand, I got the wall behind me. I'm in the widescreen, so I don't know if you guys can see it.
No, I can see it.
There's a fish wall behind me, so that's where we stand. All right, let's get into ratings. So, Trey, you start us off. What do you got for Wall of Eyes?
I was thinking about this, and I really hate how high we rate things.
We do it a lot. We do that a lot. There have been times where we've dropped lower.
Sure, yeah, but like the fact of the matter is, this is a 9 out of 10 album.
That's fair.
I mean, comparative to Radiohead's work, I wouldn't even put it in the top 5 Radiohead albums. But I think it's by and far the Smiles' best album. And I really, really enjoy this band.
Nice.
For that reason, it gets a 9. Anthony?
Hell yeah. Anthony?
No surprise. I give this a 10, obviously. I mean, it is something that it becomes very, like, it has become a tool for me, whether it's to get lost or to just check out, or to really just explore mentally another lane of music. So it does a lot for me and continues to do a lot for me. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me.
Word.
Hell yeah. Well, Trey, to kind of balance this out, I give it a 6.
Okay,
give it a solid 6.
That's better than I would have thought you were gonna say going into it,
right?
Because like 5 out of the 8 songs, like I like 2 of them, I really like, and then there's just that 3 that are really. It's like getting a root canal musically.
So mathematically speaking, that would translate to
getting a lobotomy.
So yeah, I give it a 6 for sure, but I thought it was solid. All right, well, that was Wall of Eyes by The Smile. If you haven't listened, give it a shot. If you're a Radiohead fan, definitely give it a shot. But let's get into Rides or Dives. So, Anthony, you start us off because I want to hear your thought process behind this pick.
I know what his thought process was.
Well, Trey knows a smidgen of this, right? So let me say what the song is and who it's by. So the song "Serious" by the Alan Parsons Project. So I get vinyl from all sorts of places.
I think I know what it is, but anyway, continue.
But so this song is used as the intro music for the Chicago Bulls. So let's put that out there. Now, I did not know what the song was originally that the Chicago Bulls had used. So one day I'm in the backyard and I will play the vinyl that I get periodically. And I've got like 3 or 4 different Alan Parsons Projects albums. And I play this one. I don't know. I don't know the name of it, but it's got the Eye of Ra and it's light blue color. But so I play it and I'm not looking at tracks and I'm doing other things. And this song starts and I'm like,
the album's called Eye in the Sky.
Eye in the Sky. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So the song starts playing and I'm like, holy shit, I'm geeking out. Cause I'm like, this song is coming off this album. And then obviously just doing the legwork to realize what it is. And it's a great fucking space intro. And last night being New Year's Eve, Pretty Lights opens up the second set with their rendition of this track
that's
into
exactly
the intro.
What I
and
thought it was.
He introduces the band. I mean, it was a cool ass
band
fucking
like
moment.
They were players, like on
and they come out one at a time.
It was very sick. They
Sick
like
ass
walked out to the
moment.
front of the stage and like, yeah, it was fucking cool.
That's tight.
So like I texted Trey immediately and I was like, dude, this is that, because, in Pretty Lights culture, that's always referred to as, the Chicago Bulls intro. But I don't know how known it is even of this song, but it was something that I wanted to put out there. But this song in itself is super fucking cool. And then obviously you put it in that context, it just gains more meaning. So Rides or Dives.
Hard fucking rides.
Yeah.
Hard rides. Yeah.
Hard
Song we'll always bang.
Even without Pretty Lights or the Chicago Bulls,
exactly.
It's just legitimately a very fucking cool song.
Yeah. And that's a band potentially we'll bring to the podcast too.
I would be super down to do that. That'd be
it's
fun.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Trey, what do you got?
Oh, fuck. What did I send? I don't even remember. It was an MJ Linderman
Wristwatch.
song. Wristwatch. So in MJ Linderman, I found out about him because Trey Anastasia recently was talking in an interview about how like COVID has birthed all of this new like creativity and like kind of in our generation really. And MJ Linderman is a guy who's actually from Asheville. And he said it was someone that he liked a lot. And then last night when I was streaming Fish, they were playing MJ Linderman. They're playing this whole new album before the Fish show in Madison Square Garden. So wow. I've been listening to it a lot the last couple of days. It reminds me of Pine Grove kind of, but like a little more bluesy and like a little more jammy. And I'm really like, I have no idea how either one of you are going to fall on this. So I'm kind of curious what y'all think.
Blake? Anthony? Oh, all right. I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. There's not a lot of lyrics in here. There's a lot of
it's
really
kind of
instrumentation.
Nonsensical. It's kind of nonsensical lyrics, kind of like Fish.
Yeah, and just very instrumentation oriented. Right. That's definitely the focus. Don't love his voice, but as a whole, really enjoyed the song, so gonna give it a rides for sure.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah, there's like a lyric in there that he like literally made up. He's like, "I've got a houseboat docked at the Himbo Dome." There's no such thing as a Himbo Dome. He's like made up that whole concept. But
hell yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Anthony. What do you think?
I had a great time listening to this song, and I'm trying to pull. Do you know the name of the album off the top of your head?
The name of the album is
Manning Fireworks.
Manning Fireworks.
Yeah. So when you sent the song, I was like, all right, this is interesting. I feel like I had heard that name somewhere just along the lines, or just I don't know where I heard it, but I've not listened to the album. But even while I was sitting here before we podcast, I was scrolling on Instagram and saw that this album was in like 3 of the handful of people within Relics magazines as their top album of the year. To hear that Trey Anastasia is vouching for it too, I mean, it's probably worth listening to. So I'm definitely going to give it a shot at some point here soon. And had a great time. Song definitely rides.
Yeah, check it out for sure. There's a song at the end. It's called Bark at the Moon. And it has like one of my favorite fucking lyrics ever. And the lyric is, I took off on a bender, you took off on a jet. You're in on my bit, you're sick of my shtick. Well, what did you expect? And I just
nice.
Think it's like cool
so
shit.
Good.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
good.
Blake.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I picked Don't Sit Down Because I've Moved Your Chair by Arctic Monkeys off of the album Suck It and See. And let me tell you something. I think that Arctic Monkeys gets a lot of shit for their last two albums, which I understand. And you know what? They've kind of fallen off the map, but Suck It and See and AM are two of the best rock albums of the last however many years. They are phenomenal fucking albums.
Since the
And
70s.
yeah, and Suck It and See is great on so many levels. And Don't Sit Down Because I Moved Your Chair is a straight banger. I love this song. I love the lyrics in this song. I love the way the song breaks down when he says, fill in a circular hole with a peg that's square. Don't sit down because I moved your chair. Like the way that they kind of drop the guitar and it's just the drums and his voice. Like there's just so much about this song that I love. So hard rides for me. What did you guys think?
So I'll say this: it was a little jarring. No, it was great, man. I'm really interested. I've never listened to the Arctic Monkeys, and you brought them before Rides or Dies, and I remember liking that track too, whatever it was back when. But yeah, bring at one point when you're thinking about bringing Eminem, say, you know what, let's go Arctic Monkeys. You know, throw it out there because I'm very curious. They have do they have this traditionally like heavy sound to them? I mean,
This album in particular
Okay.
is that's kind of. I think you could debate between whether it's this or AM is their peak, but this is probably the heaviest they are.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Because like when I know, and I probably said this exactly when you brought them back when, is that like when I hear the name Arctic Monkeys, because I've not listened to them, this is not what I expected. So it's like such a pleasant surprise that like, yeah, it's very, very good song. So definitely rides. And also the track title, how polite. You know, usually when you're moving people's chairs, you right, you want them to bust ass, but like he's letting them know. So.
how do you feel about "Suck It and See" as the album?
I don't know.
title?
We will see. We will have to see.
You'll
Suck
have
it
to
and
suck it
see.
first.
Yeah, very nice, Trey.
Dude, fuck, I forgot about Arctic Monkeys. And I forgot how much I love this band. So you sent the song and it sent me down like a wormhole. I love this album. I also would like honestly prefer probably to do whatever people say I am. That's what I'm not, or the EP they have, which we wouldn't do an EP, but like who the fuck are Arctic Monkeys from like their early like fucking just British like middle finger in your face, fuck you Ramones type shit.
Yeah,
Like Arctic Monkeys are awesome. AM is great too.
yeah,
Do they
This
still play?
album, yeah, they do.
yeah. They do. It's just their last two
They're
albums have
just-
been critically and
they're-
commercially panned.
They're just kind of like I mean,
They
I
took the
don't-
Cage the
yeah.
Elephant route. That's exactly what
Yeah.
they did.
And that's what's upsetting about them and Cage Elephant both is like y'all have this opportunity kind of to lead
Such a
this
waste.
new wave
Yeah.
of rock music.
Yeah,
And you kind of just took this easy way out, and
Yep.
you would be so much bigger if you didn't.
yeah,
Like people are yearning for this type of music.
1000%.
This song is an obvious rides for me. I mean, it's fucking fantastic. So
Fuck yeah, dope. All right, well, that was
Rides
Rides or
across the
Dies. Rides across the board. Let's get
Yeah.
into Trey's movie pick. So, Trey, you picked a Pixar movie, Disney movie called Soul. Tell us a little bit about why you picked it.
all right, so this is why I picked this movie. My nephew, when I was back in Birmingham for Christmas, was absolutely precious. Anthony's got nephews, you got nieces. Y'all know what it's like. You're around them; they're super cute, and he loves Toy Story. So I was going to pick Toy Story as a Pixar movie just because, like, I thought it'd be fun for us to like dissect it a little bit. And then I was kind of like scrolling through Disney Plus, and I was like, I wonder if Blake's ever seen Soul, because I knew Anthony had. And I was like, let me like, because I asked you, I don't know if you remember, I was like, have you seen this? And you're like, no. And I was like, that's what we're gonna do instead.
Yeah.
I rewatched the movie last night about 3 a.m. And I don't mean to be like hyperbolic. I think this might be one of the best pieces of art ever created. This movie is just so profound, and the fact that they got millions of dollars in a budget to create it. I did a lot of research on it last night actually, and the guy who made it, his name's Peter Docter, and he created Up, Monsters Inc., and Inside Out. So he's like, and now he's like the head of Pixar. And this was like an early idea that he had, and like his original idea was like, what if we created a movie about souls having personalities and not just like being inanimate objects? And like the way this movie rolls out as far as the death scene, and like the idea of like your spark not being like the thing that you love the most in the world, like that's not your purpose on earth. Your purpose is to like share, every experience and interaction that you have. Like it's a very deep movie that deserves a lot of re-listens. The sound and the music in it is amazing. So like John Batiste did like all the jazz stuff they did like within New York, like in the real world, and then Trent Reznor and Atticus Finch did.
Yes.
They did the other side of it, and the way that they got those guys on board is there was a stagehand who had worked with David Fincher before, and he was like, "Hey, y'all should go get these guys," and they were like, "Who are these guys?" And then obviously they are who they are, and like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, there's just so many scenes that are so captivating. It's a really beautiful film, but I'm curious, what you guys thought about it.
I want to say before you, Blake, because you're the one that we really want to hear
Yeah.
what you have to say. But like this movie to me, Trey, when you picked it, like I just glow from the inside, because like this movie is such a, it's a lot. I get the same feelings when I listen to bands, that really move me. And this movie is like incredibly moving and incredibly deep and incredibly, like in my mind, accurate to so many things when it comes to near death experiences and actual death experiences. I've
Died
personally,
before?
what's that? No, I've not, but I've talked to people who have, and I've actually, I wanted to show you guys these books. So this book, Life After Life and Life After Death, they're so interesting. That what turned me on to it was I've had DMT experiences before, and I've read, the book, The Spirit Molecule, that talks to people who have had near death experiences, and then really compares it with people who the human trials they did with DMT, and that just like really just gets my brain going because they're so parallel, and having conversations with people in person and reading a lot of firsthand accounts of people who have died. And it is still so like it's so mirroring each other, those experiences. And this movie encapsulates so much of that, encapsulates, movement through a tunnel to a light, encapsulates the time dilation that's happening in that realm, whether it's, you can call it limbo, you can call it whatever you like, but like that there's like the first 40 minutes besides, the first 10 are spent in that realm. And then he wakes up in the hospital bed, which in reality had only been not that long. So it's just, there's so much to take in with this movie. Obviously the visuals and the sounds are beautiful. And I love the concept of being in a flow state. Like when you're in the flow state, it's like your spirit is in another place. Which,
God,
again, it's just so
good.
you gotta love it, So I mean,
good.
there's so much to learn from this movie, I think, and so much to think about on this movie that I think I agree with you, Trey. I mean, from a artistic standpoint, from a cinematic standpoint, it's so unfortunate that this movie was made, around COVID times too. And it didn't initially get a release in the theaters. It went to Disney Plus first, but
Because of COVID.
yeah. So like, but this movie, I mean, experiencing it as whole as possible is just gonna, I mean, I would beg to talk to somebody that shits on this movie, because like there's so much to get out of it that it's just a shame if people do. But yeah, it's beautiful. So Blake, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think Trey was spot on. I think this is one of the best things I've ever watched, one of the best things ever created. I think that, and this is not an attempt to toot my own horn in any way, but I've had a conversation. I had a conversation with somebody close to me recently, and this movie came at such a good time because I feel like I tell people constantly, you can't be constantly thinking about the future, right? The next step, the next house, the next kid, the next job, the next promotion, whatever it was, because in doing that, you remove yourself from like these things that are happening now, like the present, right? And the overarching theme of this movie at the end is like when he has that oh shit moment of like she was just excited about. First off, I love Tina Fey, by the way. Tina Fey is a fucking the best, but her passion was like she just loved to live. Like when he's like, that's just normal living. Like there's nothing special about that. But like,
God, that scene where it's just zoomed out and it's just like his overdubbing that. Sorry,
right? But like that's the best thing is like you have to have a passion for living. That should be your purpose to be on Earth. Like, And I feel like I tell people that constantly is like, you have to appreciate now. If you're not focused on now, you're going to look back 5 years and be like, what was I doing? Like, why was I not paying attention to this? And I don't follow. I do that thing where I give people that advice and I don't follow it. Like, I'm so caught up in I'm in the process of trying to sell my house and move. And I'm so caught up in the next house and what are we going to do when we have to move and what are our finances going to look like and blah, 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 blah. And there's all this shit happening in front of me now that I'm neglecting. Right. And I think this movie like came at the perfect time because it kind of grounded me and reminded me of like, you need to pay attention to your life now. There's great things happening that you're ignoring. And I think like that's a message that is universal for everybody, right? There's no perfect moment. There's no perfect job. There's no perfect, once you get this, oh, you're happy. We instinctively have this nature in us to, we reach that point and then it's the next one. What's the next one? Right. And like, he kind of has that moment when he finally plays, he's like, I don't know. I just thought like, I thought it would be more. I thought I would feel differently. Right. And you do that to yourself when you build these expectations of once I reach this point, everything's going to be perfect. That's right where I need it. And it never is, because that's just not how life works. And I think that is really a special, powerful message that people need to hear. And also like telling people how you feel now and having those conversations, whether they're tough or not, whether they're negative or positive, tell them that now, because there's a chance that you don't get to do that later, you know? Sorry, I'm getting choked up. I just really, it's the first time I've cried at a movie in ages. Like, I have not cried watching a movie in so long. And like, thank God Amanda was asleep on the couch because she's already seen it. So it's like, and like, I cried, man, at the end because it's just so good and just such a poignant piece. So like, goddamn, I'm so glad you brought it. Like, I thought it was great, man.
I mean, and that was part of, whatever. That was part of why I thought that it would be a good time to watch something like this. But can you believe that's a fucking children's movie? And that's how they
pitch it. But
that's how they pitch it. But that's not a child's movie. And like, I didn't realize they put it in theaters last winter for like a month.
Interesting. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, they released it and it did really well. But I would have gone and seen it in a heartbeat. But yeah, dude, like it's a phenomenal. It's one of those things that I watch and I'm like, it's crazy that this even exists, where they were able to, encapsulate these ideas of, like the great beyond and, like the great before. Like that's something that we all think about death, right, all the time, but like we don't really think about life before whatever life.
Right.
There's such
we're constantly sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No, you're good.
Well, like there's such a impactful line in one of the Jerry's. One of the Jerry's says, you don't remember the trauma of childbirth, and that's one of life's greatest gifts. Right. I mean, but like there's so many gems like that throughout this movie that I think you can't not be moved unless you have your eyes closed and your ears closed and your heart closed, and like it's not possible with this movie the way it's being told. And this director, having done Up, the first 10 minutes of Up are tragic. In this movie, the first 10 minutes are like, what? Oh my God, where are we going? Holy shit. And it just keeps building like that. And I think you can't help but be reflective on your own life experience while watching something like this. And that is art. That is, the power of not just cinema, but just score and visuals all combined together with this kind of headspace. I mean, it just sets you up for an emotional journey, and fucking so glad that you could have that, Blake.
Yeah. And I love that they give him a second chance. Like, I don't always need a happy ending, but like it was just so nice to get a happy ending. I bitched recently about how, this is kind of a spoiler, kind of not, but like Arcane season 2, there's no happy ending for anybody in the show at all. So like, it was just like, and I remember being like, look, I'm a big boy, I can handle that. But like, I want a happy ending sometimes. And I just love that they gave him his happy ending and he realized like, I'm just going to focus on living my life and loving it. So I thought it was great.
They filmed 3 different endings. One of them was Joe and 22 meeting like in the real world, like after he goes back to his body.
Nice.
One of them was him standing and pondering like if he should go back or if he should go to the great beyond. And I forget what the other one was. And they like kind of decided at the last minute to do what they did.
Damn, that's crazy. Yeah. I would have loved the him deciding, not giving us a final.
Like they left it open ended. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I like that. It was up to him.
Two quick things before we hop off this. One, and Anthony, I know you're gonna love this. So Moonwind was inspired by Terrence McKenna.
Really?
That is, yeah. So the guy the guy who's on the sailboat with the
the guy who's spinning the sign.
Yeah.
Love that
The flood
guy.
state.
Yeah, he was inspired by Terrence McKenna.
Really?
And then a second thing is, and this is the guy who directed this is a devout Christian.
Huh?
Yeah, he is
That's
a devout.
shocking.
He's like
Well, I guess he didn't write it though.
No, he wrote it. Yeah, it's his
Oh.
project.
Oh.
But he's like a progressive Christian, so like he doesn't believe in the concept of hell or anything like that. Scene where they're making fun of hell is one of the funniest.
Yeah,
like,
it is
fun,
really
like,
good.
Hell.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You see how beautiful everything is? Like, there's not a place where you're in eternal fucking damnation. Like,
Right.
that's absolutely goddamn insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought y'all think that was interesting because I read that last night and I was just shocked.
Nice. That is really interesting. I'm glad you said that. But yeah, awesome fucking pick, Trey.
Yeah.
So
Glad you
next week we have me album and then Anthony movie, correct?
Yep.
All right.
Really quick before we do this, hold on. I got a surprise for you. I got 3 Trey's terrible Twitter takes. but from
Oh
Threads.
shit!
Yeah,
Hold on.
all
What
right.
time is it? 1 hour.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Hell
All right,
yeah,
here
goes
we
with
go.
it.
Here we go. All right,
Hold
Ryan.
on. Did you want to give him the proper intro,
Yeah,
Blake?
yeah. Give my
Can you
Oh,
get it?
oh,
Can you
give
get
my
it?
shit,
yeah.
bro. Give my
Hang on,
shit.
hang
Hey,
on.
2025, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, the great return.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Trey's Terrible Threads Take. My name is Trey, and fuck Elon Musk. All right.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. Let's get it.
Ryan Gelso, with 29 replies and 8,500 likes, says, for a majority of human history, Luigi would have been anointed the new CEO of United Healthcare.
That's so true.
It's
Fuck,
true.
let's go back.
All right. Here we go. Abby made this. One reply with 108 likes says, you jerking it? Me to someone eating beef jerky.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Good one.
All
Okay.
right, here we go. This is our last one. Real.leather22 with 50 replies and 5.1 thousand likes says, Guitar Center is specifically for guitars. If you want a bass, you have to go to Bass Pro Shops.
That's true. That's factual information.
Factual information. So yeah, there you go. There's hold on, I got one more. This is from Tumblr actually. Save me, substance abuse, I cry. Before you can moralize me about the dangers of addiction, a noble and powerful steed gallops into the room. My horse, whom I have named substance abuse. You learn an important lesson about making assumptions. I snort a line off its back.
Holy shit, that was all over the place. Awesome. Yeah, that was a good one. Fuck yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Trey's terrible Twitter takes. Good shit. Fuck yeah. All right. Well, okay. So next week I got album. Anthony, you got movie. So for the album, this is going to be interesting because I think Trey does not like this band. And I think Anthony doesn't have an opinion on this band yet.
Perfect.
But we are gonna do their first album, Zaba by Glass Animals. I can't remember if Trey likes this band
You're
or not.
wrong.
Okay.
I don't love this band, but I love this record. So
How do you
that's
spell that?
Zaba, Zaba by Glass Animals came out 10 years ago, 2014.
Damn,
well, I guess
God,
11 years ago
we're
now.
old.
Yeah, we are old as shit. So Anthony, what do you got for movie?
All right, so the movie that I would like to pick, okay, it doesn't come out to streaming, I believe, until January 7th, but it is also an animated movie, and it's one that I may have talked about it already, but I saw it in theaters, and it's pretty moving, and I really kind of just want to leave it at that, but it's a movie called Flow. Like I said, January 7th is when it will come out. If we record before then we can pivot to another movie, but I really think that will be something worth talking about. So we'll put a pin in Flow, and then if we have to pivot, we'll make it known.
We will not be recording before then, so we'll be able to watch
go with it.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. So Flow it is.
Cool.
There's no dialogue in this movie too, just so we put it out there. Right?
Okay.
Get lost in this
No
thing. I'll give you some
dialogue?
context. Yeah, just
Trey said, uh-oh.
just get lost in it. Trust me.
All right.
All right. Well,
tell you
ladies
now.
and gentlemen, that was a blast. We hope you had a happy new year and a great Merry Christmas. If you made a resolution, stick to it. If you don't stick to it, who gives a shit? Nobody cares. Don't make yourself mad about it. You got next year. So, yeah, it was great, boys. Had a great time. We will talk again soon.
Yes.
Viva
Bye,
25.
everybody.
Hey, Blake, hang on one second.